Hey you guys, it's MJ. How are you? I'm really enjoying live streaming from my computer. I want to talk today um, about healing, obviously, and I talk about surrender, knowing, and the Fearless Life Guide. And so this is like a funny kind of one of those paradox posts that and what I'm realizing actually is there's times in our lives where we just almost have to admit defeat. That weirdly, I would say sometimes some of our realizing that our patterns are usually ego driven. Like we want to hold on to a fantasy. We want to hold on to an idea of who we are. We want to hold on to an idea of who someone else is. And for me, having observed like the heartbreak cycle or whatever, and looking at the patterns even within the heartbreak cycle, and like the pattern of like fighting for something, or like the pattern of fighting for someone, and then once you watch that pattern acting out, and you realize that in and of itself is an abusive pattern, right? Because you keep going back to hurt yourself, basically. And hence this share why I'm like why sometimes it's just like better for us to admit defeat. Be like, okay, I'm defeated. Like those people don't like me, or so and so, and that person's not going to change. Or also, when it comes to admitting defeat, I gotta say, like, if we're having to face a conflict or face a tricky situation emotionally with another human being, and every time you try to talk about it, every time you try to broach it, you just feel worse, or they just dump on you, or they just attack you, to me, that's a fair enough example of when it's time to walk away. Or if we keep kind of coming back to a situation and going over the same thing over and over again, and that dynamic isn't changing, then admit defeat. Also, it's easier to admit defeat when you realize that what you're surrendering defeat to is your own painful cycles. It's your own painful patterns. It's letting go of like the unworthiness, because sometimes we can actually have a shift in perspective where we're thinking, wait a minute, why do I even think I want that? And usually there's, and again, an egoic attachment to our own value and our own self-worth attached to a thing, a job, person, or whatever, that when it goes away, it challenges us, it challenges our sense of self. Hence why we go through all this like, oh, who am I? And then, however, there are, what I'm observing in humanity are like, for other people, they're much more concerned about keeping their reality fixed, keeping their reality secure and like rigid, and they might like having certain people and things around them, but if those people and things challenge their rigidity, their security, their belief system, rather than wanting to grow, wanting to make shape shifts, wanting to expand and meet the other person, they just push that person out, or they reject that person, right? And then essentially people will just, call back in. What I'm aware of, however, is that if we notice negative patterns get worse and worse and worse and worse. Positive patterns get better and better and better and better. So what we can actually imagine we're doing, if we're choosing to expand, we're having to go round and round in circles. And each time we bump up against a negative pattern, we look at it, own it, transform it, and then keep feeling into and moving in the direction of the good feeling patterns, of the things that make us feel good inside our bodies, the things that fill us with positive experiences or positive sensations. So we keep choosing that. The difference when we choose ego, or when we choose separation, or when we choose our own fear, or when we choose our own unworthiness, we typically stay locked in patterns, but they get worse. So, we might attract another partner into our life, but if we're not truly elevated, that partner will not be like, it might look similar initially, but the patterns that one had in another relationship, the patterns will still be there, but they'll be even worse. They'll be even denser. They'll be more annoying, more trigger, right? And yet when we begin that ownership process, when we begin that self-responsibility process, we can really rise in an exponential way, basically attracting better and better things into our lives, more and more abundance into our lives. And then we can keep moving in that direction, right? But if there's a whole bunch of stress and shit and chaos in our reality, then that's our vibration. That's what we're having to like own and look at and be like, straight up, like the reason there's so much confusion and chaos is that our minds are way too busy. And for the most part, what I observe is like most people have so much social programming and so much familial, environmental programming that they don't know right from wrong. They don't know their own heart versus what we're supposed to do. And like most of us just get so fucking trapped in like, well, I have a job, I like make money, I've got a place to live. And I watched a really cool video by Teal Swan. And this is why I've just literally, like in the last couple of days since my ceremony that I made a video about, I'm just totally surrendered and like admitting defeat. But again, feeling this really like integral, loving kind of, I'm free. I just feel free. I feel free in my body. I feel like this sudden shift of like feeling really worthy and valuable and like solid in my career and really open to new beginnings and open to new experiences. And because I've been really using and yoking my imagination, I can now look back at my past and be like, I don't even know why I was so upset about that. As in like, it's not like now when I think about what is possible, what I imagine how it would feel and look for somebody to actually want to be with me, how it would feel and look for somebody who actually wanted to invest in me, who didn't just want to take from me. And then when I didn't want to give, they just walk away. Right. So to flip that around and have it where it's not conditional, to have it where somebody really, really actually wants to invest and show up for you. Because I'm starting to manifest that certainly in my female and my friendship relationships, now I'm setting the bar of like actually what a romantic relationship would look like and feel like with somebody who's genuinely invested, not somebody who's just kind of playing around to see and wait if there's something better that comes along. Because that, even as I express those words, I'm just like that. I'm sure that's like a common belief for so many women that like, they'll just use us up until the younger, prettier thing comes along. And it makes me want to cry just like saying that, because it just goes to show how convoluted and messed up and dysfunctional we are because we just use each other. And this is, so referring back as a resource, guys, I watched a video from Teal Swan called How Has It Come to This? Or How Has It Come to This? And she kind of goes back in history and shows like the historical evolutionary cycles of humanity and how we got more and more disconnected over time. And that's why we can hurt each other, because we're not dependent on one another for our well-being. So I've had a journey where, because I've not been physically driven, I've often been in a place of need where like I literally pack up my bag and kind of have to flee a situation and then end up like relying on benevolence from other people. And then again, these are situations where I literally had like no money, was going to lose my car, was like working my ass off. And then somebody who's settled, has family, has house, has friends, has community all around them, they just decide like I'm not useful to them. So they got rid of me. The thing is about this paradigm and this world is that the reason that is so not sort of narcissistic and toxic is that individual has no sense of like how that would make the other person feel, or because they don't need that person anymore, they just throw them away. And it doesn't matter what that does to the other person. So for me, in those situations where somebody's like, well, I don't need you, or you're not going to act like how I want you to act, so you can fuck off, you can get out of my life, you can. And I'm seeing this everywhere, and it's really impacting me because I don't operate like that, and I really genuinely fucking care about people, and I really want to support and love people. And it's been incredible in how many of my relationships I went into that old pattern. I support, I love, I focus on them, and then as soon as it comes to putting a bit of attention onto my work or a bit of attention into my life, they just cut me off or walk out, or basically say, how in such a way, how dare you claim your freedom? how dare you think that you could actually be happy and powerful and make money, da, da, da. And it's almost like they just want to keep you squeezed in. They just want to keep you squeezed into their version of their reality. And this is just somebody sharing it from my point of view of like a compassionate, caring person who has had life cycles of kind of just abuse and like being taken advantage of. And like even recently I'm dealing with a lot of my own like embarrassment, foolishness vibes of like humiliation, just out of naivety, like just purely out of like, yeah, childlike, okay, yeah, you mean what you say, right? And then having these like this very like adult wake up calls, and it's beautiful. Like I'm so thankful. One, I'm thankful that I have the courage to not give a shit that I'm embarrassed about all of my many fuck ups in the last couple of years. And at the same time, I'm super proud of myself for just carrying on and just showing up. And like, even after getting stranded in Bali and getting brutally dumped and like people gossiping and people like tearing me down behind my back and stuff, I'm still fucking here. Yeah. And this is the juice of life. I still love myself more than ever. I'm happier than ever. And I like genuinely love and care all those people. Like all those people who were talking shit about me. I'm like, I still love you guys. I'm still going to love you no matter what. But that energy I can't have around me. Like that's more what it's like. It's self-responsibility of like, I can't be around people like that anymore. I can't even surround or barely even think about people like that who just want to use and manipulate and use their class and power and status to power over people. It's so mean. It's so harsh. And I guess that's like the next level of like abuse. What was I thinking about? I had an analogy when it came to abuse of like, whether it's like digital. So like, even if it's like abuse via messages and stuff like that, as in like on Messenger, right? Well, and I think that's what I was thinking about because I did a post about like blocking and all the like social media, like gossip stuff. And it was like, well, you know, we all have our own choice. And then I thought about like when I was getting from time to time, I mean, there was a specific situation where it was really like a person sending me photos of like women in bondage, asking me like, do you like this? And it was just like, like what's happening, you know? And do I have to respond? And like, why is this person doing this to me? And blah, blah, blah. And of course, my people, this is maybe a year and a half ago. And so my people pleasing tendency kicks in. I'm like, that's not really my thing. And thank you for, and then he persisted. And eventually I blocked him because I was like, this is actually fucking hurting me. Like having this man sending me these photos is making me really uncomfortable. And then even just, again, like 2 days ago, so I have this analogy when it comes to whether somebody's hurting us emotionally, whether somebody keeps doing something that makes us feel uncomfortable without our consent, right? When somebody's messaging us expecting, when somebody's sending us verbal fucking diarrhea abuse on Messenger, even if they're talking shit behind our back and we find out about it, we are allowed to block people. And think of it this way. We would not tell someone who is being hit and physically abused at home, just be nice, just ignore it. Don't worry about it. Like, just ignore them. But like, you don't have to block them. Just kind of put up with it. Right? That's how I had to, like, that's the extremity of this shit, is that you have to put it in that kind of context, because emotional abuse is abuse. It's abuse. If we're being fucked around, if somebody's lying to our face, if somebody's using our body and then saying something different and talking behind our back, that is mean, cruel, abusive behavior. And because of our human evolution, we should start to know better. We should know that if we know law of attraction and thoughts become things, we should know better than to sit around and talk dirt on somebody else, because that's just our own dirt. You know, that's what kind of hurts about these situations, is investing and believing in people and then watching them just talk shit about themselves, but masking it and them in their little communities thinking that that bullshit is about you and trying to project that bullshit onto you, and then being like, that's why we have to block. Because if I don't take responsibility to block the people that are attacking me and pretending like they're not, then I'm playing the victim. And the thing is that I don't want to play a victim anymore. That's what I've just had to recently, like, you know, we hide our shame, we hide our guilt, and then it comes out, it gets exposed, and we just attack one another rather than dealing with our shit. And yeah. Oh, like, we all have shit. I just sometimes I don't get it. I'm like, it's not bad. I guess we're all afraid. We're all frightened. We're afraid of rejection and abandonment, not belonging. So we try to fit in, but in trying to fit in, we deny who we are, which means we don't know how to be ourselves with one another, and then we don't know how to be vulnerable, and then we, you know, like, it's all kind of convoluted and weird, but we got the love. And I can just honestly say that, like, love heals everything. And it's only since I've really just let go and admitted defeat, admitted my failing, admitted that I've lost some people that I really cared about, and that's how it's meant to be, right? And even with having to look at shades and look at darkness and look at betrayal and abuse and secrets and lies, looking at all that, I can see it, and it's like, it's okay. It's part of our growth spurt. It's part of our upbringing as humans, you know? I just am very clear that, like, it's not my desire to play those games anymore. And so I'm really clearing that out, right? Like, really seeing all that darkness and shade, understanding where it comes from an ancestral and certainly, like, from my own family history, understanding how and why I would have created a situation like that. And then being able to release it with my family, like with my own mother, being able to, like, understand why the situation may manifest and to let it go. And I'm really feeling this massive, like, shift in my own. So basically what I've had to release was, like, a disempowered masculine, like the kind of void father figure, or, like, yeah, emotionally unaware, just kind of there but pretending to be there, and quite kind of conditional, very dense. I don't know. It's like it's gone now. Like, I finished it, but, like, this last cycle was, like, looking at the disempowered masculine energy, like the masculine energy that can't speak up for itself, that doesn't know its truth, that doesn't know its heart, that isn't like the masculine energy that does not protect the women in its life. You know, that it's the masculine energy that is total victimhood, that expects all the women to, like, pander. Basically, the men who still expect women to be their slaves, whether conscious or unconscious, a lot of men do that. And then women play up to it. Women are like, yeah, that's my job. I'll work, and I had to cook and clean for him. And we all get in our little dramas and bullshit like that, instead of true to powerful beings. Watch Avatar. To me, if you want to know what, like, for me personally, what a real connected male-female dynamic relationship looks like, it's those two. He and him fight together. They bond. They're bound. They see each other. They know they're know one another's heart. They know, and they're both warriors. They're both equally powerful, right? He sees her, she sees him. It's like, it's sacred. I think that's the whole thing about Avatar. That's the story that it's really trying to teach us, is to remember our connection, because we are all connected, but we've created so much comfort, physical comfort, that we've cut off that connection and got really far out of ourselves and really distorted. And now we have all this fear that we're trying to hide away from, but in hiding from the fear, we're just fucking spitting fear everywhere. And everyone's all, I don't know, you know, I'm a moosh. Because I'm primitive vibes. And I hear you guys. That was a bit of a rant, but I just appreciate you guys. And I've had a lot of movement, and it's positive. It's really positive. I'm just still settling, and I'm excited to keep sharing the juice of life. The juice of life. Thanks, guys. I can see someone there. I'm not sure who it is, but have an awesome day. Thank you ever so much for joining me. And I'll look forward to posting from Brighton tomorrow. Yow! Here we come. I love you guys. Speak soon. Peace out.